Shalom Israel, Shalom, Shalom. Brother Naquam, watchman for Israel, coming back at you with these precepts and another cold cut, giving, of course, all honor and all glory to Yahweh. Bahashima Mashiach Malak Yabashai. Double honor to the elect elders of the house of David that's been in this truth for decades and decades, patiently waiting for the second coming of Mashiach Malak Yabashai. A hearty, mighty Shalom to all of the mighty men of the Most High God who are out there in the highways and byways, pushing this truth, magnify the ministry, presenting their body as a living sacrifice, and enduring all things for the elect's sake. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the men that may not be out there in the highways and byways as of yet, but they're working on it. They're getting built up in the spirit. They're praying, they're fasting, they're studying. They're being diligent and abounding in the work of the Lord. Shalom, shalom. And shalom to all of the Akwat out there, the sincere sisters out there, holding it down in the households, married and unmarried, being submissive and diligent, and moving in the spirit of our righteous foremothers. Shalom, shalom. And last but not least, Shabbat shalom to everybody else tuning in live. Salaki, let me pull this up. Don Israel, from Egypt to Israel. Santiago, Antio Brayboy, The Very Unpopular Truth. Elijah Jones, Kyoko Banyamyan, The Art of Today. Brother Azariah, shalom. Love Pius, Solomon McFadden, Daughter of Zion, Anthony Knox, and everybody else tuning in and that will tune in, right? Shabbat Shalom, where we're going to go into the Torah, the ancient mind in the Torah, WFI Law School, and go back into ultimately how to show your obedience, see how about Shem Yahushua, and the law, statutes, and the commandments, right? Now, when we go into the law, we got to understand that there's more to the law than not eating pork, right? And growing your beard out. Sometimes at camp, or sometimes, if you have watched, brothers teach, you may hear, really only about 5 commandments, right? Now, these commandments that brothers give are really pretty much based on the council at Jerusalem, right? Now, when you understand how the council of Jerusalem operated, there was a burden that was laid upon the Jews and the Israelite foreigners that they were really the Israelite foreigners that they had to be circumcised, right? And Paul and Barnabas brought this situation up to the elders, to Peter, John, and James, and the rest of the men of the Lord, right? And they asked this question: look, when we're out here teaching our people, should we impose on them laws that require more faith, or should we give them laws that they can kind of start keeping just to lay a foundation? Right, let's read this. Acts 15:1. And certain men which came down from Judea taught the brethren and said, except ye be circumcised after the manner of Moses, ye cannot be saved. Now, being circumcised is indeed part of the law, right? That's Genesis chapter 17, 10 on down, Leviticus chapter 12, 1 on down, right? Every man must be circumcised, right? Verse 2. When therefore Paul and Barnabas had no small dissension and disputation with them, meaning they got into a big argument. It was a big deal. That's why I said they had no small dissension, meaning it was a big decision. There's probably yelling, going back and forth, foaming at the mouth, pulling this scripture, going to that account. So it was a big deal. So they couldn't figure it out themselves. And so they determined that Paul and Barnabas and certain other of them should go up to Jerusalem to the apostles and elders about this question. So they couldn't just send a text to the elder or give them a phone call. They had to travel up there, right? Now I'm gonna jump down. I'm gonna get straight to the point, right? So the council is, hey, should we have these guys be circumcised? All right, this Acts chapter 15 and verse 19. Wherefore my sentence is that we trouble not them which from among the Gentiles are turned to the Most High. So it can be troubling to a brother who newly learns about the truth to hear that he has to be circumcised. Imagine living your life in wickedness and living your life in sin and living your life according to the customs of the so-called white man, and you have never even heard of a circumcision. And now a brother's teaching you about this truth, and the first thing he tells you is, look, you got to get circumcised. That foreskin you got, it's time to start cutting that thing off. That might turn the brother off from the truth. You might say, whoa, what is this about? What kind of crazy stuff you got going on? He'll go back and tell his people, hey, look, this guy, he was telling me about the truth, about the resurrection. It kind of made sense, but then he said, take my foreskin, that foreskin thing I got and just get rid of it and cut it off. So they didn't want that stigma to be put out there. Not that circumcision is off, but they wanted these men to actually grow up. They gave them a starter pack, if you can understand, or a starter kit to learn the commandments. And as they learned these commandments and kept them and got built up in the faith, then process of time, it would be more reasonable in the spirit for them to get the circumcision, right? Because now they're completely invested and persuaded that this is the truth. All right, Acts 15 and 19. Wherefore my sentence is that we trouble not them which from among the Gentiles are turned to the Most High, but that we write unto them that they abstain from pollutions of idols, and from fornication, and from things strangled, and from blood. So that goes back to the law. Anybody saying that the law is done away with, any Christian, any pastor, why are the apostles still upholding the law? Pollutions of idols goes back to the first commandment, right? Fornication is all up and down Leviticus 18 and Leviticus 20, right? Things strangled, that goes back to Deuteronomy 14. From blood, Leviticus chapter 17, right? So this all goes back to the law. Now this is the starter pack for the ancient world, right? Now they pretty much told them these commandments because these are the things that our forefathers struggled with, that were living in that Gentile state of mind. Idolatry was heavy, as much as it is now, but it was really prevalent back then, with so many temples, right, dedicated to the pantheon of so-called Greek gods. All right. It says, and from fornication, they had prostitution all around the cities, temple prostitutes, men prostitutes, women prostitutes, and from things strangled, and from blood, because they were selling this meat dedicated to false gods, and they weren't slaughtering the meat or the lamb in a proper fashion, and they had full of blood in it. For Moses of old time hath in every city them that preach him, being read in the synagogues every Sabbath day. So our forefathers, they were in the law every Sabbath day. I wanted to go into this after camp last night, but the spirit suffered it not to go, right? Had all types of satanic forces trying to stop the lie from getting put out there. We're going to try to go every Friday night, Lord willing, after camp, if we can, right? Go into the law every Sabbath day, right? If not, we run it on what they call so-called Saturday, right? We want to go into I want to go into the law more so like on a Friday, then go to prophecy and the prophets more so on so-called Saturday, right? But we'll see, how consistent we can be with that through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashmi Abashah. Now, when you're dealing with the law, right, our forefathers were masters of the law, right? And we go into this word all the time. They were rabbis, doctors, lawyers, right? When you go into the book of Luke, before we go into that word, right, let's go into Luke chapter 11, right? Luke chapter 11 and verse 45, right? Luke chapter 11 and 45. Then answered one of the lawyers and said unto him, Master, thus saying, thou reproachest Slakia. Then answered one of the lawyers and said unto him, Master, thus saying, thou reproachest us also. And he said, woe unto you lawyers, for ye laid men with burdens grievous to be borne, and ye yourselves touch not the burdens with one of your fingers. So our forefathers were actual lawyers. And we're not talking about, let's see, right, this guy. Oh, let's pull up, you type in lawyer. I already knew they was going to show a so-called white man first. Right? This is not the lawyer that Luke is speaking of. It's not speaking about a so-called white man. Esau's concept of having law and a judge, and they got this symbol for law, right? The lady with the scales, which means she's about justice and judgment. This is hypocrisy. Look, and they weigh things in the balance. So I guess Esau weighs judgment in the balance. Right? Let me actually pull that symbol up. What is that, lady? I can't think of the actual name. Right, let's see if we can find that. Lady Justice. Look at this madness. Lady Justice. So Esau and his Lady Justice. Blindfolded, which means they judge. They basically what they're saying is they have perfect judgment. The so-called white man and his judicial system. Blindfolded meaning that they're no respected persons. Balance meaning they hear everybody out, they wear it in the balance, and sword meaning they execute judgment. Right? Now check this out. Lady Justice is an allegorical personification of the moral force and judicial systems. Her attributes are scales, a sword, and sometimes a blindfold. She often appears as a pair with prudentia, right? It's the prudence, right? It's the ability to govern and discipline oneself by reason, all right? So let's go on. Lady Justice originates from the personification of justice in ancient Roman art known as justitia, one who is equivalent to the Greek goddess Dyke. What the heck? So they got Dyke, right? The Greeks have a so-called god named Dyke. All right. Now, when you go back to and she's the one with the scales. That's where they get it from. So Esau's Lady Justice is based off of the so-called Greek goddess named Dyke, who had the scales and the balance, right? Who actually symbolized moral justice. But Esau has no business personifying anything about justice and law. He has no business doing anything with law and justice. He's the most hypocritical, unjust man on the earth. Right? And this isn't even about Esau, but I mean, we're going to actually prove that real quick. Let's go to Wisdom of Solomon. Then I want to go back into lawyers. Right? Esau's entire judicial system is really based off of the Bible, right? His circuit courts, his district courts, right? Let's go to Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2. I'm going to pull up that court system for the so-called white man, right? Because in the ancient world, we had different courts, all right? This is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2, and verse 11. This is the mind of Esau. Let our strength be the law of justice, for that which is feeble is found to be nothing worth. Meaning we're going to use the law to destroy the weak. They don't mean anything to us. Anybody that doesn't look like us, that doesn't come from our bloodline, that's not what we're into, they are the feeble, they are the weak. We need to weed them out, but we need to do it by being hypocrites, and we're going to use laws and justice to destroy the feeble because they mean nothing to us. That's what Esau does, man. Right? That's why you have millions of Israelites locked up in prison. Millions of Israelites who are falsely accused, falsely charged, right? Who receive outstanding, and I say that in a negative way, outstanding indictments, man. You know, and lengthy sentences. There's a brother doing 70 years, man. Right now, you had a brother that was doing damn near life for stealing a book bag. So Esau, he uses the law and wickedness to oppress people. See, this is a wicked system right here. And everything is predicated off of law. Everything in the Bible, right? It's all based off of either you're obedient to the law or disobedient to the law. Right? Let's read on. Therefore, let us lie in wait for the righteous. So this tells you that they're MO. Because he is not for our turn, and he is clean contrary to our doings. He upbraideth us with our offending the law, and object. See, that's part of the law. I object. And objective to our infamy, the transgressing of our education. So what does this mean? This is saying that Esau, they said, let us lie in wait for the righteous. Meaning, let us plot on them. Let us create crafty laws and design a system against them. Let us lie in wait for the righteous. Why? Because he is not of our turn. Because we're the ones who's going to be obedient and keep the commandments and check the world. But the world wants to be wicked. So they say, since he's not like us, let us lie in wait for them. And he is clean contrary to our doings, right? He upbraideth us, meaning we get on them, we correct them, we rebuke them. Who's the us? The Edomites. Who's the he? The Israelites. He upbraideth us with our offending the law. Yeah, we get on Esau for breaking the law, man. For advocating all types of transformers, sodomy, wickedness, pedophilia, murder, deceit, sex trafficking, man stealing. There's not one law in the Bible that this man has ever kept. Not one, ever. Now you can say, well, what about the Lord said that? No. Right? He upbraideth us with our offending the law. And object, yeah, we do object. Object is a legal term, right? Let's see. Well, we don't have to get into that, right? And objected to our infamy, the transgression of our education. Right? We'll pull that up. What does it mean? Right? Object in court. Okay, what does objection mean in court? An objection is a formal protest that an attorney can use when they disagree about evidence or testimony being used in the case. So we object about what Esau does, man, because it ain't righteous. There's nothing sincere or righteous about what they put in their laws. So we object, man. They say, hey, you could be a sodomite, and we object. But then they you know, in the court system, they say, look, sustained or overruled. Esau, being a wicked judge that he is, he overrules every objection from the apostles and the prophets and the men of the Lord. Right? Because we do disagree with this world. And that's what it tells you in Wisdom of Solomon. It says, and objected to our infamy, the transgressings of our education. Right? So the Bible deals with law up and down. Now, when you deal with our fathers were masters of the law. They weren't wicked lawgivers like the so-called white man. Like I tell you in let me get one more. But we're not going to let up on you, Esau. Right? You're not just going to get one verse for the lesson. Right? This Isaiah chapter 10 and 1. Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, that write grievousness which they have prescribed. So this means when you look this up in other translations, it says, woe unto them that make wicked laws. Right? Let's pull that up. Isaiah 10 and 1. Woe unto them that write wicked laws. This is Isaiah chapter 10. And nobody really knows society outside of us as a righteous government. That's why wherever you go, I mean, it's nothing but so-called prejudice, discrimination, unjust dealing. Right, let me pull this up real quick in Isaiah, right, chapter 10 and verse 1. And again, our forefathers, they were masters of the law. And really, you know the law. It's like the more you know about the law, the better, man. Because you may be breaking commandments. Because you may have just thought that, okay, well, look, I got to just grow. The only commandments I heard is, okay, grow my beard out as a man, get my fringes, keep the Sabbath day, and don't eat no pork, shrimp, crab, and lobster. And don't get no tattoos. There's only about 5-6 commandments, right? So here's Isaiah 10 and 1. Woe unto those who make unjust laws, to those who issue oppressive decrees, right? NLT, what sorrow awaits the unjust judges and those who issue unfair laws. Woe, ESV, woe to those who decree iniquitous decrees. See that? And the writers who keep writing oppression. That's what Esau do, man. Stop and frisk and, you know, all types of wicked laws, man, that are literally targeting one so-called minority or one ethnic group of people, one nation. All right. His laws are set to target one nation as he creates a system for them not to prosper and to have a damn stumbling block. So he has all types of wicked laws set up, man. So in the scriptures, our forefathers were lawyers. And this word lawyer, it really means a master of the Torah, right? So they knew what was Genesis about, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers. See, Jake, now you pay all this money to go to the so-called white man law school, right? And these lawyers are liars. These guys got to these guys got to defend criminals. They know that this guy murdered somebody, and then the defense attorney, he has to act like he didn't hear that this guy, molested some little child. So these guys are off, man. A lot of these lawyers think they know each other. They go out to drink at the bar. They talk about the case. They disclose evidence. They pay people off. They do bribes. Even a judge knows the lawyers. There's a lot of partiality and wickedness in America, man. You think your lawyer, you in a tight jam, you think your lawyer got your back. And the lawyer been made a deal, man. And the lawyer didn't include you. You're just a Negro, right? And you're just kind of hoping that you can make it, right? Just hoping that you can make it, man. Right? Now, so let me go back to this. Right? So here's this Greek word for lawyer, mamikos. Okay, lawyer, pertaining to the law, one learned in the law. And the New Testament, an interpreter and teacher of the Mosaic law. So everybody couldn't be a lawyer, right? Because some people would look at the law and say, it's talking about this, right? And they'll have their own spin on it. You see that in Israel now, man. Certain men, they may look at the Sabbath thing and say, well, you could really have sex on the Sabbath, right? And you could really work out on the Sabbath. Then you could do this on the Sabbath, and this is allowed. Then you have to have people that actually go into it and say, well, hold on. When you really go into it in the spirit and you link it up with this, no, you can't do this on the Sabbath, right? There's a reason why Nehemiah said that we're not going to abide on the Sabbath, right? There's a reason why certain things, he said, or on a holy day. All right, so there's certain reasons why you have men that were charged to go into the law. And it's really only the Levites. The Levites were, and the king. The king and the Levites, those are the only two people that had to be masters of the law in the ancient world, right? They were the lawyers, the doctors, right? When you pull up the word doctor, right? Let's just type that in, right? You'll see that. This Acts chapter 5 and 34. See, Jake, now, like we always say, your mother, your father in the world, they always want you to grow up to be a doctor or a lawyer, right? But lawyers in this world are wicked. We already proved that. Doctors in this world are nothing but sorcerers. See, a doctor is none other than a witch or a wizard, whose job is set up to actually teach you about witchcraft and sorcery. And they rob you, man. But the ancient doctor is a little bit different. Acts 5 and 34. Then stood there up one of the council, a Pharisee named Gamaliel, a doctor of the law, had a reputation among all the people, and commanded to put the apostles forth a little space. See that? So you had this brother who actually taught Paul. Gamaliel was taught by, he was the grandson of Hillel. We brought that up before. And Hillel had his own school. And you would actually go and grow up and go to these schools in the ancient world. There was no K through 12. Okay, K through 12. Okay, I got to learn about algebra. Okay, then I got to learn about sex education from my enemy. Then I got to learn. Esau and them damn sex ed classes getting off, man. Teaching you, Well, I got to run out the room real quick. Come back, man. Because they be getting off on these classes. Getting off on lying to you about history. So there was no learning this man stuff, man. You would grow up, and every Sabbath day, you would go to the synagogues, and you would sit down, and they would teach you the law. We read that in Acts 15, right? And you would learn your end of the covenant. You would learn the ceremonial laws and the feast days, right? You would learn the laws of the diet, right? You would learn the laws of cleanliness and how to be purified, right? There were certain things that we knew. He was a doctor of the law, had a reputation among all the people, and commanded to put the apostles forth a little space. Now here's that word doctor. Right, let's go into that Greek word for doctor. It's Acts 5. And I want to go into some of the laws in the ancient world, right? Some of the laws. The mighty Daskalos, right? A teacher of the law, an interpreter of the law among the Jews, of those who among Christians, right, went about as champions and interpreters of the Mosaic law. So if you was a doctor in the ancient world, I mean, that was the highest office. There's nothing higher than a doctor. And that's why Esau stole that now. Right? Your PhD, you're a doctor. Right? You can be you can get a doctorate in philosophy and be a doctor. You can get a doctorate in math and be a doctor. There's only one type of true doctor. See, Esau's PhD is really a doctorate in philosophy. That's all it means. Right? What does PhD stand for? Doctor of philosophy. Well, anybody that's a doctor in this world, we don't respect that, man. Doesn't really mean too much. For the Latin philosophi or philosophi, doctor or doctor philosophi, it's the most common degree at the highest academic level. Where I wonder where they got that from, right? But they got that from our fathers, man. Because our forefathers were in the scriptures. They said this guy, he has been in this school for 30 years, 40 years. He has proven himself. This guy, he is a doctor of the law. And every brother, you should encourage yourself to be a doctor of the law. You know, you should challenge yourself to read the law. Right? You don't have, you're not really, to be honest, you're not going to understand the rest of the Bible if you don't understand the law. That's plain. That's all throughout the Bible. I mean, it repeats that constantly. The foundation of really understanding, it starts with your repentance and you doing what? Keeping the law. Not just keeping 2 commandments. Right? The more you know about the commandments and the law and you are obedient to it, the more the Most High opens up your mind. Right? Ecclesiastes chapter 21 and 11. And we show our faith, because you got brothers saying, well, what about the faith? Well, how do you show your faith? By your works. Right? I tell you in James, show me your faith without your works. I'm going to show you my faith by my works, paraphrasing. So we show how much we truly believe in his grace by the works that we do. Right? Ecclesiastes chapter 21 and 11. He that keepeth the law of the Lord getteth the understanding thereof. And the perfection of the fear of the Lord is wisdom. So if you keep the law, you get the understanding. Let's go to the book of Ezra, chapter 7. This is Ezra, chapter 7, and verse, 6. So one of our forefathers, Ezra, was a mighty man of the Lord. Ezra was a Levite, and he was a top priest of the Most High God, and he was a scribe of the Most High God. This Ezra went up from Babylon, and he was a ready scribe in the law of Moses. So remember, the Pharisees were also accompanied by scribes and Sadducees. So the scribes were highly exalted. That was a high office too, because a scribe also knew the law, right? A scribe is somebody that would write down the law, right, into different manuscripts, right, or different papyrus or different tablets or whatever the case may be. Whatever the law said, they would write out the copies of the law. So these guys had to be learned, right? They had to be sharp in the law, and they had to have attention to detail and wisdom to be a scribe. Everybody couldn't be a scribe, huh? It says Ezra, he was a ready scribe in the law of Moses, which the Lord God of Israel had given, and the king granted him all his requests according to the hand of the Lord his God upon him. I'm going to jump down to verse 10. For Ezra had prepared his heart to seek the law of Yahweh and to do it, and to teach in Israel statutes and judgments. And that's where our mind should be. We should prepare our heart to seek the law of the Lord. Let me see. Let me read Deuteronomy. I haven't read Deuteronomy in a while. Let me make sure I know what's going on in the law. Hold on. Let me read Numbers. I know certain brothers, they don't even read Leviticus. It's too long. It's too boring. This sacrifice. You got to take the kidney out and the caul of the liver, then take the meat offering and sprinkle it with blood. And I don't have time to read that. I want to read the in-depth breakdowns. Right? That can't be your mentality, man. Right? The law is spiritual. The law has a lot of double meanings to it. There's a lot of secrets in the Torah, right? With in the Hebrew, that's a Levirate, which means instruction or law. That's what the word Torah means in the ancient tongue, right? The Levirate, which means instruction or law. So our forefathers, they sought the law, they did it, and they taught the law. Right, that's what we're going to go into. We're going to go into certain laws. Even they asked Yahushua, how does this individual, this guy, knowing letters, having never learned? Because it was a big deal for a man to be up there teaching, like let's actually get that right in the book of Luke, right? If I'm not mistaken, let's go to Luke. So I get John. That's what I want. Let's go to John chapter 7 and 15. Right, let's go to John chapter 7 and 15. It reads, I'm going to start at 14. Now about the midst of the feast, Yahushua went up into the temple and taught. And the Jews marveled, saying, how knoweth this man letters, having never learned? Man, how does this man know the law? How does he know the scriptures? Right? And he never learned, man. He didn't go to our schools. I didn't see him in the synagogue. I didn't see this guy being taught by the hand of Gamaliel, and he wasn't in this school. How does this guy from Nazareth know the law so well? That's what they say about us. How do you guys know the Bible? Right? Who's your theologian school? Right? Where's your seminary degree? Did you guys go to Harvard? You guys don't know the Bible. Then you go into the scriptures, they're actually confounded because we never learned. We weren't taught this by the world. We weren't taught this by your top theologian schools, right? We weren't taught this by your seminary schools. Let's see this. Best theological seminaries, right? Regent University. There's no brother that went to Regent University to know the law, right? Divinity schools, the theology and religious schools, right? 2023, the best theology schools, right? And I went to a high school and they taught a theology, right? A Catholic high school, and they taught theology, man. You know? And guess what? Nobody knew what was going on in there. Now, I remember they had this one thing I do remember, right? One thing I do remember is that they wanted to go into Matthew, the 21st chapter. I remember this. Matthew 21:19 or down, when Yahushua cursed the fig tree. And the person that was teaching the class, they said, we don't know why the Lord cursed the fig tree. It's normally not like him. You know, he doesn't normally do these things. It's one of the great mysteries of God on why the Lord cursed the fig tree. They said, we just leave that part alone, but we're going to move on. Well, we know why the Lord cursed the fig tree. They don't know these things, man. You go to these theology schools, Duke, right? They're the #1 school. Ain't they called the Blue Devils? You know? That's the great decision for pursuing a degree in theology. I guarantee you'll walk out of there and not know your nationality. See, theology is the study of God, right? Theos means God, and ology meaning the study of. So who is the so-called white man to tell you how to study the Most High, right? And you can't really study the Most High. The Lord gave you the scriptures. Well, I'm going to study God. That's off. University of Notre Dame. Notre Dame means Our Lady, man. Right? It's Latin for Our Lady. Nostris is a Latin for our, and Dame goes back to lady. So it's about Mother Mary up in this school, you know? the Fuller Theological Seminary, University of Chicago. So this is all madness, right? We don't have to go to these schools, right? What school do we go to? And we're in the house of learning, right? Let's go to Ecclesiastes. I believe that's chapter 51, right? Dwell in the house of learning. This Ecclesiasticus chapter 51 and verse 23. Draw near unto me, ye unlearned, and dwell in the house of learning. So we're directly taught by men, but those men are directly taught by men, and all of these men in the truth have been directly taught by Yahweh Bashmir Rashah on a deeper level. This is the Lord's house of learning, these scriptures, and the Lord comes down and sups with you. Because there are certain things that a man can show you, and there are certain things that only the Spirit can show you, you know? So this is where we learn it. This is where we dwell. Now, I actually want to go into some examples of the law, right? I have some chapters I want to kind of go into. Maybe go over a chapter, right? A week or so, right? Now, this law, see, this says sundry laws. Certain chapters in the Bible, now that we're dealing with it, they have laws that pertain to one fixed topic, right? One fixed topic, like Leviticus 23. Leviticus 23 is all about the feast of the Lord, right? It starts by introducing the Sabbath, and then it goes into the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and it closes out with the Feast of Tabernacles. That's one chapter dedicated to that. Deuteronomy 14, Leviticus 11 are chapters that are dedicated to the diet. Then you have chapters in the Bible that are sundry laws, right? Sundry meaning diverse or different, right? Because it'll cover different topics, right? Sundry definition, various kinds, several, varied, miscellaneous, assorted, mixed. That's what it means. So Deuteronomy 25 has different types of laws. It's not just one type of spirit going in here. So let's read this. This Deuteronomy chapter 25 and 1. If there be a controversy between men, and they come unto judgment, that the judges may judge them, then shall they justify the righteous and condemn the wicked. And there were judges. Like we said, Esau, now he has his different district courts, circuit court, supreme court. Now, ultimately in the Bible, we've been at that. Because when you had a situation, let's say a brother stole an ox from you, right? And you say he stole it. He says, I didn't steal it. Y'all would go before the judges of your local area and the gates of the city. And those guys would judge you, the elders, you know. But if there was a matter too high for you, then they would go to the judges above them. Then they would go to the priest, right? And so there was a different order of events. Then they would go to Moses, right? When you go to Exodus 18, let's prove that we had our own court system, right? This is and that's what you look at this father-in-law. See, some of these titles are kind of on point. Father-in-law. Even the concept of our law has been pushed out in the world for marriage. Your father-in-law, that's not your biological father. Father-in-law comes from the Bible because he's your father according to law, right? By default, you have to look at this brother or this man the same way that you look at your father, because you have married his daughter according to the law. So now he's your father-in-law. Well, I'm going to the in-laws. They don't even know what that means. According to what law? Ask the average American. Oh, what does the in-law mean? You know? Well, what law are they talking about? They'll be confused. Well, I don't know. It's just talking about, my mother's dad. Oh, the in-laws are coming into town. Well, in-laws just simply means that's your father according to the law of marriage. And you have to look at him and treat him the same way that you would treat your father. And you have to look at your mother and treat her the same way that you would treat your mother. Should be no beefing between the in-laws, man. That's what they do now in the world. They make it like a joke. Oh, the in-laws, and you're getting into it, man, with them. You're supposed to look at them and reverence them the same way you reverence your earthly father and your earthly mother. So let's move on, right? And we can go into that as well. The Lord said He shall deal with her. Let me get that before I digress. right? It says he shall deal with her after the manner of daughters, if I'm not mistaken. Let's get this. This is right, Exodus 21:9. And if he hath betrothed her to his son, meaning a man may get a woman and bring that woman to his son, he shall deal with her after the manner of daughters. So a man can't take a wife for his son, like Abraham took Rebekah and brought her to Isaac. A man can't take a woman, bring her to his son, and then try to deal with that woman. That's wicked. He has to look at that woman now and say, I have to treat her like my daughter. That's where the concept of a daughter-in-law comes in, or a son-in-law, according to the law of marriage in Exodus 21, right? But let's go back into this. Go back into this court system. This is the book of Exodus, chapter 18 and verse 13. And it came to pass on the morrow, right? Morrow means morning, that Moses sat to judge the people, and the people stood by Moses from morning until evening. So he was like, you know how they show Judge Mathis and the people come and you got one guy, like you watch Judge Mathis, they do about 4 court cases, right? Some of that stuff is staged. We don't really know it's a script, but nevertheless, that's the spirit. Moses would sit down in his seat, and then he would have these people come up to him, and one would plead their cause, and then another one plead their cause. And Moses, according to the law, had to justify the righteous and condemn the wicked, right? This is where Esau gets his court system from, right? When you look up this, right? I'm only typing in Judge Mathis because that's a simple courtroom structure. I don't want to type. I don't want to see him, right? See, this is the courtroom. This is how it's laid out. The judge, and then you got the plaintiff, and you got the defendant. Let me see if I can get this. Right, maybe I can get a better one. Right. Let's see, plaintiff and defendant. It's plain. So Moses would have to hear these people. This is what they call a civil trial. Civil court. Right? Plaintiff and the defendant. Right? And they will weigh it in the balance. Right? You have to weigh it in the balance. And Esau got these nasty wigs that they would wear. And that goes back to the ancient Egyptians when you go into that. Right? So you have the judge, you have the plaintiff, and you have the defendant. And if you got a big deal, then you'll have an attorney, right? You'll have the prosecutor, and you'll have your defense attorney. Your defense attorney pleads on behalf of the defendant. The defendant is the one being charged with this particular crime or this particular sin. The plaintiff is the one seeking justice. He's the one seeking a reward, rather it's a money, rather it's whatever the case may be. And in the ancient world, they didn't really have a prosecutor, right? And there was no defense attorney. And a spiritual world, we really deal with that. We know our defense is Yahweh Shai, and our prosecutor who comes against us is the spiritual demon Satan. And we've covered that. We did a video on who is Satan. And we went into how Satan is the prosecutor who brings up charges against you in the court of law. And Yahweh is the supreme judge. Right? So let's go back to this. So Moses sat to judge the people from morning to evening. And when Moses' father-in-law saw all that he did to the people, he said, "What is this thing that thou doest to the people? Why sittest thou thyself alone? And all the people stand by thee from morning until evening." He said, "What are you doing, man?" And Moses said unto his father-in-law, "Because the people come unto me to inquire of the Most High. When they have a matter, they come unto me, and I judge between one and another, and I do make them know the statutes of the Most High and his laws." And Moses' father-in-law said unto him, "The thing that thou doest is not good." He didn't say that you teaching the law. isn't good. How you go about doing things is not good, right? You can do something righteous, but you can go about it in a unwise manner, right? Thou wilt surely wear away, both thou and this people that is with thee, for this thing is too heavy for thee. Thou art not able to perform it thyself alone. Hearken now unto my voice, and I will give thee counsel, and the Most High shall be with thee. Be thou for the people to Godward, that thou mayest bring the causes unto the Most High. And thou shalt teach them ordinances and laws, and shall show them the way wherein they must walk and work that they must do. So you say, we're going to give you men, right? And you're going to take these men and teach them the law, and these men are going to be judges under you, right? That's where you have the civil court, the district court, the Supreme Court, all of that. We're going to pull it up. So, like, moreover, thou shalt provide out of all the people able men, such as fear the Most High, men of truth, hating covetousness, and place such over them to be rulers of thousands and rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties and rulers of tens. So you might have a court, you got to go to the ruler of 10, right? He might not know what's going on. Then he goes to the ruler of 50. Then he might have to check in with the ruler of 100. Then he might have to check in with the ruler of 1,000, right? Verse 22, and let them judge the people at all seasons. And it shall be that every great matter they shall bring unto thee, but every small matter they shall judge. So shall it be easier for thyself, and they shall bear the burden with thee. So you have lesser judges that would judge small matters. In the big matters, they go to Moses. Let's look up this court system. Let's see. Right, let's see the levels of the court system. Right, you have your local court, your county court, state court, district court, court of appeals, and Supreme Court. Right, let's get another one. District courts, courts of appeals, Supreme Court. Right, 94 districts, U.S. Court of International Trade, Court of Federal Claims. Then you have your Court of Appeals or your circuit courts. And then you have your Supreme Court. So Moses essentially was the Supreme Court. All right. He was essentially that Supreme Court. And this is how this man runs his world, but they really get it from the scriptures, man. Right? Because that was set up by Moses of old. So in Deuteronomy 25, this was a controversy between two judges. This is like a local court, a local situation. He stole my ox. Okay, no, he didn't steal my ox. And these guys they have to figure this thing out, right? They have to figure this thing out and justify the righteous. All right. It reads, hold on, let me pull up the etymology. I want to go to the etymology too. We're pulling up a lot of names, words, facts. Let's see, adjudication. Right, judge. Let's see. To judge, I want to get to, okay, here we have it. Okay, here's the definition of judge. Public officer appointed to administer the law, right? From compound of eos, right, meaning right or law, and desere to say. So it really means somebody whose job is to teach the law or show the law. Now check this out. Extended from the late 14th century. Let's see where the concept of a judicial system comes from. Because the judicial system goes back to the word judge. The word judge, right? Extended from late 14th century to persons to decide any sort of contest. From 1550s as one qualified to pronounce opinion. In Jewish history, we know when they say Jewish, it's really going back to the Israelites, our fathers, right? In Jewish history, it refers to a war leader like Moses, vested with temporary power, as in the book of Judges, from Latin judex, being used to translate Hebrew shapat. This word judge means shapat in the Hebrew. So it ultimately really goes back to the Hebrew. His whole system of judicial system goes back to the Latin judex, which was used to translate the word shapat, which is the Hebrew word for judge. That's why it's important to understand etymology, because this entire judicial system goes back to the Hebrew Israelites, man. You know, that's where it goes back to. It goes back to the, you know, who our judges were, the Shapatim. All right, that's what the word judge is. If we pull up that word in the Hebrew, let's see, in Exodus 18, like you may hear the word Jehoshaphat, right? Jehoshaphat is Yahweh Shapat, Yahweh's judgment. Now here it is. It says Shapat. It says, and at theophanic advent for final judgment, to act as a lawgiver or judge or governor of God and man, to decide controversy, to execute judgment, right? That's what it means. And you had men in the ancient world who knew the law. See, a lot of situations happen in Jake's life, and Jake don't know the law, so they handle situations on their own will, right? Jake, you fighting in the damn bathroom because something happened. You jumping somebody because they stole something for you. Where does it say in the law that you have to jump this guy because he stole your phone? Right? There are laws that go about theft. There are laws that go about adultery. Laws that go about rape. Right? Laws that go about everything. And you got to know how to execute judgment when this situation is presented in front of you. You can't just do what you want to do. Yeah, this guy stole my phone. I'm going to beat his ass. Right? Let's go. We're going to see where he at. I'm going to steal his phone. Well, that's not in the law. That's why there's so much trauma and madness and crime and evil amongst our community. Because we don't have anybody to judge us. Nobody's going to stand up and plead in righteousness, man. You know, everybody, like the Lord said in the book of Judges, everybody does what's right in their own eyes. I guarantee the world, when they're in a situation, they're not looking at the scriptures. Hold on, what the law says, I have to do this. Okay, this brother stole one ox. Okay, he has to give me this many oxen for this ox. Okay, all right, when this situation happened, these brothers got into a fight. And there's a law that goes into if brothers get into a fight. You know? If you and your brother kind of get into it, it may happen. There are laws to go about how to deal with that. Laws that go about adultery. Okay, there's all types of laws. Laws that deal with funerals and dead bodies, right? This is Judges chapter 21 and 25, right? It reads, in those days, there was no king in Israel. Every man did that which was right in his own eyes. And that's what's going on in America. And chiefly amongst the Israelites, right? Because we don't have any lawyers. We don't have any doctors that go and say, hey, look, study this, and here's this commandment, and here's what should be done in this situation. Everybody's pretty much doing what they want to do. And nobody's correcting them. Let's read on to Deuteronomy 25. And it shall be, if the wicked man be worthy to be beaten, that the judge shall cause him to lie down and to be beaten before his face, according to his fault by a certain number. So in the ancient world, Jake ain't going for this now. Right? If you try to tell Jake that they did something, hey, look, you got to get beaten. That brother don't want to hear that, man. He's going to want to fight you. He's going to swear and curse on somebody's grave that you're not beating his ass. No, I ain't going for that. He'll fight you in the ancient world. Hey, guess what? A guy may have done something where the Bible says explicitly he's worthy to be beaten. Now, what would warrant? And I was talking to brothers about this. You know, what would warrant a brother to be beaten in the law? It didn't say stone this guy. You know, it didn't say hang this guy on a tree. It said there are certain things that a man may do. It's lucky where he's worthy to be beaten. Maybe this guy kind of spit in your face, man. Right? That's worthy to be beaten. right? Maybe this guy kind of broke in your house, but he ain't steal nothing and he left. Well, that's worthy to be beaten. There's a lot of situations, and with Jake, he's worthy to get beat. He's a wicked man. Maybe he's just going around digging ditches in the ancient world. Got a shovel, just digging holes and pits and covering them up and running away. And he's watching in the morning to see who's falling in the ditch. But then he gets caught. So you got to bring this guy before the judge and say, hey, look, this guy's digging ditches all throughout the land. My ox fell, my wife fell, my cattle fell. We got to take this guy. They didn't die, but we got to take this guy. We got to beat this guy. I was able to secure him out safely, but this guy, he's a menace. So the judge had to say, look, beat this guy, man. So you would actually get a rod, your staff, and this guy would have to lay down, and you have to beat this guy with a rod a certain amount of times. And he had to deal with it. He had to accept it. Right? So this is how life was done. These are laws on how so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans operated in the ancient world. Right? Verse 3. 40 stripes he may give him and not exceed, lest he should exceed. It's like, lest if he should exceed and beat him above these many stripes, then thy brother should seem vile unto thee. So there was no crimes against humanity. That's what they would call this. If you beat your brother over 40 times, it will be called a crime against humanity. All right? That's what they call it now. Esau and his dam, he would have something. Crime against humanity. Right? Is a, let me pull this up. Is a deliberate act, typically as part of a systematic campaign that causes human suffering or death on a large scale. So this would be like a small act of a crime against humanity. So you have to beat this guy 39 times or 40 times. And you have to have some self-control. Because when you got the 40, hey, this guy might have did things. You might want to keep beating him, but you got to have some discipline. You got to say, look, this is still my brother at the end of the day. Yeah, he went off. He was out here digging ditches all throughout the land. Hey, but look, I'm going to hold off. All right? That's one of the laws, right? Men were beat. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 26. If we could bring that law back, that'd be beautiful, man. Because I guarantee after this guy got beat 40 times, he wasn't doing it again. And this wasn't done in secret. Everybody saw this guy get beat, man. So this was a big deal. Proverbs chapter 26 and 3. A whip for the horse, a bridle for the ass, and a rod for the fool's back. So if you was a fool, and it would beat you. They didn't condone foolery and folly. Folly wasn't a customary in the ancient world. Folly wasn't acceptable, man. See, we had integrity. Our men, our ancient men, they were austere men, hard men, mighty men. They were warriors. We were talking about that at camp. Everybody now, these men are effeminate. Everybody's emotional. Everybody's sensitive. You can't say nothing to nobody. Everybody's just allowed to get away with everything. You're allowed to be a sodomite. You're allowed to expose your body. And if you say anything negative, they say your body's shaming me. I'm about body positivity. So you can't, this society is so perverse that if you speak anything righteous, everybody gets on you. You can't say nothing. You're allowed to be obese. You're allowed to be out of shape. You're allowed to be a fool. You're allowed to be anything. You can be what you want to be. In the ancient world, they wasn't going for that, right? If you was a fool, they'll beat you, man. Right? So let's go back to this. Let's read on. Another law. Thou shalt not muzzle the ox when he treadeth out the corn. Yeah, this is simple law. This is straight up common sense, right? And mercy. See, a muzzle, for brothers that don't know, because we don't have that ancient mind. A muzzle is something you put on the ox, right on his mouth. Now, if you look up a muzzle, see if they got an image. This is a muzzle on the ox, right? The Lord said you can muzzle your ox certain times, right? But when he's trading out the corn, you can't muzzle your ox. Because why? He's out there working. He's out there laboring in the field. He should be allowed to eat of his own reward. That's in the New Testament. So you have to show mercy to your beast. There are laws on how to deal with your animals in the ancient world. All right, so you cannot muzzle an ox. Now, the Apostle Paul actually broke that down on a deeper level. You cannot muzzle the ox that treadeth out the corn. That's like, people, they cook for large amounts of people. They might have a little plate on the side where they're kind of eating their food on the side. But, that's something that they're doing to keep themselves from starving while they're cooking the food. So you can't tell that person that you can't have your own little food while you're making food for 1,000 people. That would be off, man. Right? 1 Corinthians chapter 9 and verse, let's see, 8. Well, this whole chapter is good. I'm not going to read this whole chapter. This is verse 3. My answer to them that do examine me is this: have we not power to eat and drink? So the Apostle Paul said, we have power to eat and drink, meaning we have the ability and power to get food from you and drink from you, right? Because we're the apostles. He didn't want to pull that card, but he said, look, we have power to do that. At any given time, we can ask y'all, command y'all to give us food and drink. Because people were examining him and they were saying, Paul, he's always asking for money. He's always asking for you to get a house for him, lodging. Can you get food for him, drink? So he said, look, we got power to do this, man. We're traveling. It's like brothers that travel to do the work. If you're traveling to Alaska somewhere, and these guys should take care of you, man, in Alaska. They should make sure you got food, water, right? They should make sure you got somewhere to stay and lay your head. That's what this is about. Have we not power to lead about a sister, a wife, as well as other apostles, and as the brethren of the Lord and Cephas? Or I only and Barnabas, have we not power to forbear working? Who goeth to warfare at any time at his own charges? Who does it? Who goes to war at his own expense? No, people provide things for you when you go to war. Who planteth the vineyard and eateth not the fruit thereof? Who plants a bunch of grapes and don't even eat the grapes? Or who feedeth the flock and eateth not of the milk of the flock? Say I these things as a man, or saith not the law the same also? So he's about to break the law down. For it is written in the law of Moses, thou shalt not muzzle the mouth of the ox that treadeth out the corn. Doth God take care for oxen? So Paul said, we're like the ox treading out the corn. You got to take care of us while we working, man. We got to eat. We need food. We need water. We're traveling by ship. We're taking long trips and journeys, dealing with the perils of wild beasts, man. You're supposed to take care of us, man. He said that God take care of oxen. I mean, it's the Most High really dealing with oxen when you read that verse in the Bible? No. It says, or said he it altogether for our sakes. For our sakes, no doubt. So you know that's Jake, no doubt. That it is written that he that ploweth should plow in hope, and he that thresheth in hope should be partakers of his hope. See that? So when it says, thou shalt not muzzle the ox that treadeth out the corn, yeah, it's talking about ox, but on a deeper level, it's dealing with the men of the Lord who would travel and do the work and who had to be taken care of while they labor. While you're laboring, you should be taken care of. Even Yahushua told the apostles, take no script, right? For the workman is worthy of his reward, paraphrasing. This St. Matthew chapter 10 and verse 9. Provide neither gold, nor silver, nor brass in your purses, nor a script for your journey, neither two coats, neither shoes, nor yet staves. Why? It says, for the workman is worthy of his meat. The workman is worthy of his meat. Meaning when you're out there laboring, these people should be taking care of you, right? And you have to have faith that you're going to be taken care of while you're out there laboring. The workman is worthy of his meat, right? And we're the workmen, you know? And your job got to take care of you, man. When you're working at your so-called job, it got to be a bathroom there, right? And they should have, maybe a break room for you to be able to eat. There's certain amenities that you have to have for you, man, while you're working. A laborer has to have certain things provided for them. That's why they have OSHA laws and state laws and certain things that can't go down in the workplace, man. And they have to have that stuff posted. Really, when you go to certain jobs, you got to have that stuff posted large, man. State laws and what the minimum wage is and what this means and what happens in a workplace accident and where the fire exit is. There's certain things that have to be provided for a workman. You can't muzzle them. You can't stop them from getting what's required of them. So that's what Deuteronomy 25 is going into. Here's another law, right? Let me see where I'm at. Okay, it reads, if brethren dwell together and one of them die and have no child, the wife of the dead shall not marry without unto a stranger. Her husband's brother shall go in unto her and take her to him to wife and perform the duty of an husband's brother unto her. And Jake is not keeping this law, right? This is one law that you do not hear. This law is called what scholars call a Levirate marriage. Right? A Levirate marriage. That's the type of marriage. This is the marriage that the Lord said that won't be in the kingdom. Right? When the Lord said they neither marry nor given into marriage, it's really going into the concept of a Levirate marriage. All right? A Levirate marriage is when you have a wife who has to marry her husband's brother because her husband initially died and they had no kids. Right? So when that brother lays down with that brother's wife, and it's not adultery. You can say, well, that's wicked. That's adultery. Why is he laying down with his wife? Well, brother, you got to stop being sensitive. Stop getting emotional. A lot of brothers get emotional and they get sensitive in the law. You can't get all emotional and bent out of shape. This is the ancient world, the ancient mind. I don't like that. What if she should be in love with him? I got Eve saying, what if she don't like him? Right? What if she's not in love with him? It's not about that, man. This brother, he might not find her attractive. But guess what? He has to do what he has to do. You got to keep this law. All those emotional stuff, and you got to put it on the back burner. You got to deal with it. You got to deal with the law. And if you don't deal with the law, and there are penalties behind not dealing with the law. So you can't get all emotional. That's the problem with the world of Christianity. Everybody's too emotional when the laws come out and they get all sensitive. She should have the right to choose who she want to marry. Why does she have to marry him? See, that's why I would like to see that. We don't want to hear that, man. She her own woman. She should be the independent woman. She should have time to grieve and have time to. The Lord don't care about what you got going on, man. Let me read this again. Remember, we're an ancient people. We are not African Americans. We are not Black people. We are not Negroes and Hispanics and Mexicans, right? And Brazilians and Dominicans and Haitians. And we're not these things. We are the Israelites, man. We're a Semitic people from the Far East. Our fathers are from Mesopotamia. Abraham was from Ur of the Chaldees, which is in Iraq. That's how far east we go. You see that? We're all the way from the other side of the earth. Let's remind this. Let's pull this up, right? We got to remind our people where we from, right? Because we got it twisted, man. We're all emotional and sensitive, not forgetting where we came from and who we are. See, we just say the word, oh, I'm an Israelite, but we forget where Israel is, where our fathers are from. Here you are right now in the United States. Maybe somewhere in Chicago, right? You might be in LA, right? You might be somewhere in damn, I don't know, Seattle. Now we know this isn't the best layout of the map. We know that this is not that kind of debate conversation. Just using it for education sakes, right? You're from all the way. I wish I can zoom in more. Let's see if I can zoom in more. Okay, now we're getting it in. Which one? See, hold on. I want to zoom in. See, open image. See if I can zoom in. See that? So you're over here somewhere in Mexico or Detroit. You're not even from over here, right? You're not from Mauritania and Mali and Guinea and Senegal, right? Or Ghana, right? This is a little older map, right? But nevertheless, your forefathers are all the way from here. Abraham was from Iraq. That's not even on the continent of Africa. Well, some would say it is, some would say it's not, but it's not part of the main part. It's from what scholars call the so-called Middle East. So do you think that they thought in Ur of the Chaldees like they think all the way over here? No. This is ancient culture, ancient lifestyles, a Semitic people. See, if you go to Iran now, a lot of these women, they'll die out there, man. You take the average so-called black woman or Hispanic woman or Native American woman to Iran, and they'll kill you. They'll stone you, throw acid in your face. You got to put that hijab on. Take the average Negro woman and drop her off in Iran. Do a one-way ticket, not a round trip, a one-way. Hey, somebody's gonna grab her up, man. She's gonna be in somebody's house, and if she don't get stoned, she better put that hijab on. And they don't want to see all of that twerking, all that mouth, all that US. These Ishmaelites ain't going for that, right? Nigga, you ain't SHIT. I ain't putting that on. They're not going for that. The only people that go for that is the Negro in America. You're the only one that tolerates and accepts and enables and condones that behavior. These Ishmaelites, they'll chop your hand off, man. And you Jakes, if you go over there, you think you're going to go over there and shoot some dice and with your pants sagging, they'll chop your head off. These ancient cultures, they don't go for that. They have an old mind, a less emotional mind. They're about order, right? These nations are about order, right? Or in the ancient world, right? This is the book of Judith. Let me get this real quick. Chapter 5, and I want to go back to Deuteronomy, right? This is Judith, chapter 5, and I want to read verse 6, because here's Achior the Ammonite speaking about us, right? It reads, this people, meaning the Hebrews, are descended of the Chaldeans. Now, because remember, Abraham dwelt in Ur the Chaldees, which is like in modern day Iraq right now. That's where we're from, right? They don't tell you that in school. Our forefathers are from Ur the Chaldees. Before we were even, well, I don't want to go that far, but we was in Ur the Chaldees. And they sojourned heretofore into Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia means the land between two rivers, right? Meso meaning middle, Potamia or Patmos, which means rivers. So it's the land between two rivers, right? That the Euphrates and the Tigris River, right? What the Bible calls the Hiddekel and the Euphrates, right? It reads, and they sojourned heretofore into Mesopotamia because they would not follow the gods of their fathers, which were in the land of Chaldea. So we left. People don't really know why Abraham left and Terah left Ur the Chaldees, because they were worshiping a massive amount of gods there. And you got to kind of extrapolate what was going on. It was persecution going on. So if you didn't bow down to those gods, it was a punishment happening. The chief god of the Ur the Chaldees was called Sin. It was a moon god. So Terah and them left. They said, Terah still, his mind was kind of shaky. Abraham wasn't serving those gods. So they left, right? And they went into Mesopotamia. because our forefathers, they wasn't going to serve those gods of the Chaldees, right? For they left the way of their ancestors, right? And worshiped the God of heaven, the God whom they knew. So they cast them out from the face of their gods. And they fled. So we have to flee. When you have to flee something, that means there's persecution going on. Right? There's persecution, there's affliction, you're being chased, your life is in danger. Our forefathers, we didn't just pack a tent up. Okay, let's leave. Let's go into the land of Mesopotamia. No, we had to flee. We were cast out. We were pilgrims on the earth, and we sojourned many days. And there was a lot of wickedness going on in the Chaldees, right? When you go into the law, in Genesis, the 11th chapter, and you read Judith and kind of see what was going on, there was massive wickedness going on. So here's the point. Our forefathers knew the God of our fathers and knew the law, and we had to flee from what they call Iraq. We was down in Iraq, and we traveled all the way into the land of Israel, Mesopotamia, right? Haran. And if you look up Abraham's journeys, kind of spelled it wrong, Salakia. See Abraham's journey. It should have a map. Okay, here's Abraham's journey from and to Mesopotamia and to the land of Israel, the land of Canaan. All right, so our forefathers lived a different lifestyle, right? We lived a different lifestyle than that of what the world shows. And part of our laws is what? If brethren dwell together and one of them die, right? Me and my brother live together, right, in the same community. If I die and I don't have a child, what does that mean for me? That means when our people knew regeneration. If I die without a child, that means I'm not coming back on the earth. That's what that means. I'm not coming back because I have to come back in my third and fourth generation. Right? See, that's what this is about regeneration. It's about brotherly love. If I die and I don't have a son, that means my son isn't going to bring his son on the earth, and his son ain't going to bring me back on the earth. I got to come back. Everybody knows that. So there's a law to bring this brother back on the earth. It's really about regeneration. And also, not only that, if this guy dies and doesn't have a son, he has all of this wealth. He may have cattle, oxen, land, slaves, gold, silver, garments, etc. Who is he going to get that to? Because in an ancient world, you pass your stuff down to your son. And this time, you got to give it to your woman. That's why so many people dying in marriages over life insurance and, wives killing their husbands for the insurance policy and all types of the wife putting a hit out on the husband, hired a hitman, or the husband died and he got to give it all to the wife. That's not in the ancient world. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that the man has to give it all to his wife. No, he gives it to his son. But that's this effeminate, bugged out kingdom, this matriarchal kingdom. That's what I said. This world is off, man. This is a backwards kingdom. You're supposed to give it to your son. And that son, he take care of his mother, man, in her old age. He take care of the family. He's the one that gets the inheritance. When you read, let's go to Tobit. Right, so we're kind of getting into this law in the ancient mind. Right, this is Tobit chapter 8, and I want to get straight to the point. This Tobit chapter 8 and 20. For before the days of the marriage, this marriage is between Sarah and Tobias, right? For before the days of the marriage were finished, Raguel had said unto him by an oath that he should not depart till the 14 days of the marriage were expired. So in the ancient world, you had a 14-day marriage. Go ahead and tell your boss now that I'm getting married. I need 14 days off. And he said, well, what are you talking about? Then open up Tobit and tell him, hey, look, I need 14 days. Hey, he's going to laugh at you, man. But in the ancient world, that was 2 weeks straight of nothing but feasting. And I'm talking righteous feasting. I'm not talking a shootout. It's so hot in there, Jake take their shirt off. Not Jake walking outside. I'm not talking about twerking and pouring liquor down somebody's throat, man. And nigga music and the DJ moving the damn crowd. We're talking 14 days of righteousness. Let's read on. And then after those 14 days, he should take the half of his goods and go in safety to his father, and should have the rest when I and my wife are be dead. So that's how it was, man. See, a father, and this is Tobias's father-in-law. He didn't even give it to Sarah. He gave this to Sarah's husband. Said, look, all that I have, I'm going to give you half now, and I'm going to give you half when I die. And this was in writing. He didn't give it to his cousin. He didn't give it to, you had to give it to the nearest of kin. You know, you had to give it to the nearest of kin. Let's go to, actually, we'll move on, right? Let's go back to Deuteronomy 25. So again, not only is it about bringing this man back on the earth, it's also about keeping his inheritance and his family's name, right? It says, and have no child. The wife of the dead shall not marry without unto a stranger. So she can't marry anybody else except her husband's brother. See, the word stranger has different contexts, different times. This stranger, of course, is talking about a non-Israelite, but in its proper context, a stranger would really be anybody that's not her husband's brother. So a stranger could be an Israelite. Let's say she's a Judite. Her husband is a Judite. She can't go marry a Reubenite. See, now if a wife in today's world, if her husband dies, she could go freak off. She's back on the market. She may give it a year, maybe 2 years. She'll grieve, kind of get over it, whatever. Whatever. But then she'll go and she'll deal with anybody, man. Anybody that takes an interest in her. Now, if she didn't have no kids with her husband, hey, look, she better go find where her brother is. She better get on Facebook. But hey, that's how it was in the ancient world, man. It's hard to keep this commandment now. Jake don't want to keep this commandment now. This is strange to the people, right? This is a weird kingdom, man. Right? To say the least. And weird is an understatement, right? Because even Jake that know the law, they'll be uncomfortable trying to keep this law, right? So this guy, you got to deal with it. It says she shall not marry without unto a stranger. Her husband's brother shall go in unto her. So her husband's brother got to lay down with her. Now, again, nobody said they had to be in love. This is not about emotions. It's about order. And this is brotherly love. See, the wife has to get down with this if she loves her husband, because she knows that this child that's going to come from her husband's brother is ultimately going to bring her husband back on the earth. So whatever she had about this guy could have been not attractive. This guy, it don't matter. She has to know that if she truly loves her husband, she's going to get down with the program. And this guy, if he really loves his brother, he's going to lay down with his wife. Now, go say that in the world. Now, they'll look at you crazy. They'll look at you bugged out. What do you mean? If he really loves his brother, he has to lay down with his wife? Because remember, this is a Western mind. They don't have the ancient mind and understand the spiritual things, right? So it reads, her husband's brother should go in unto her and take her to him to wife, and perform the duty of an husband's brother unto her. So that's your duty. The duty of a husband's brother is to lay down with your brother's wife in the event that your brother died and did not have any children. Let's read on. And it shall be that the firstborn, because guess what? If this guy died, he can give that inheritance to his daughters. That's in the book of Numbers. The daughters of Zelophehad, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, their father died, but the father didn't have any sons. So that father in turn gave his inheritance to his daughters. And those daughters had to marry a man from that same tribe to bring him back in due season. All right. Verse 6. And it shall be, Deuteronomy 25:6, and it shall be that the firstborn which she beareth shall succeed in the name of the brother which is dead, that his name be not put out of Israel. Meaning what? This is about his name not being put out. So you have to get down with this. And that child that you have with your husband's brother, he gets the preeminence and the inheritance. And I'll explain what that means. This brother who's about to lay down with his brother's wife may have already had a son. He may already have a daughter. He already has an inheritance. So now he has to take his inheritance and look at his son and talk to his son and say, I can't give this to you. He has to give it to this new son who's actually his brother coming back on the earth. I'm going to explain that again, right? So this is why a lot of people didn't want to deal with this. A lot of people in the ancient world, they didn't get down with this. We'll show you that in the book of Ruth. When this brother lays down with his brother's wife, all of his inheritance can't go to his own son. He has to make a sacrifice and tell his son, you're not getting any of this inheritance and any of this wealth. Now, his son could be mad. His son might not like this move. You don't have to lay with her, right? Remember me, your son. He has to say, no, this is the law. This new child that we have to give it all unto him. So when that son grows up, he takes that inheritance from this guy, but it brings back his father back on the earth, if that makes sense. Because if you didn't do this, his name will be put out. So this was a big deal. This was a big deal in the ancient world. This was not an easy matter, because a man might want to keep his inheritance in his own family line, man. Right? So let's read on. Deuteronomy 25:7. And if the man like not to take his brother's wife, he might not want to do that. I don't want to give all my inheritance and my family's wealth. I want to give it to my son. I don't want to give it to the son of this woman, right? And now I have a child and I have to give it all to this guy, right? He might not want to do that. Then what will happen? Then his brother's wife, so I could then let his brother's wife go up to the gate unto the elders and say, my husband's brother refuseth to raise up unto his brother a name in Israel. He will not perform the duty of my husband's brother. So she'll be tight. She's going to be mad, right? She's going to be upset that she don't want, because she loves her husband, of course. Everybody knows that. And the fact that this guy, her husband's brother, don't want to lay down with her to bring her husband's inheritance back in that name, she's tight. She's upset. And she can't hold her peace. She is commanded to speak out against such injustice. Right? And she will go to the elders. Then the elders of his city shall call him and speak unto him. And if he stand to it and say, I like not to take her. So the elders will get him and say, what the hell are you doing? Right? Don't you know what this is about? Do you really hate your brother that much? You look at her, right? She's crying over there. He might say, look, I don't care. I'm standing to it. I ain't, look, no. You know, Jake hard-headed, man. I ain't doing it. No. So what's going to happen? Then shall his brother's wife come unto him in the presence of the elders and loose his shoe from off his foot and spit in his face, and shall answer and say, so shall it be done unto that man that will not build up his brother's house. So this is, he would get disrespected in front of everybody. She would loose his shoe from off his foot. That's spiritual, right? That's like a woman who says, I'm done with this marriage, and takes her wedding ring off and throws it in the water. That doesn't mean, just because you take your wedding ring off doesn't mean you're no longer married, right? You're still married on papers in this world. You're still married if you lay down with a woman. So if a woman take her wedding ring off and throw it, you know what that means? That means she's done with you. She's through with you, right? Her taking it off is a symbolic act of her departing from you. So in the ancient world, if you took this guy's shoe off his foot, what does that mean? That means this man is no longer walking in the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. His path is now defiled. He's walking in a crooked path. He is no longer walking in the Lord. See, our forefathers, they walked with the Most High, right? Let's get that in Genesis 5. They walked with the Lord, right? This Genesis chapter 5 and verse 24. And Enoch walked with the Most High. Does that mean he was literally standing next to the Most High and the Most High was walking with him? No, it means he walked in the path of truth. And he was not, for the Most High took him. So when you walked with the Lord and somebody took your shoes from off your foot, it was a public act to show that this man is no longer in the spirit. This man is an evil guy. He will no longer walk in the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. A lot of our forefathers, they walked with the Most High. But if you had your shoe loosed off your foot by a woman, it was a complete sign to everybody that, hey, look, you're not walking in the spirit. And not only that, she get to spit in your face. In the ancient world, there's nothing lower than a woman spitting in your face. This is the lowest of the low. There's nothing more disrespectful to an Israelite, a king, a priest, a son of God, than to have a woman take your shoe from off your foot, right? Emasculate you and spit in your face in front of the entire nation. So, hey, if somebody spit in your face nowadays, that's an automatic confrontation. And I'll use that word, right? We'll use that word to be nice. If somebody spit in your face, it's an automatic confrontation. But in the ancient world, she get to, chalk back all of that phlegm, all of that spit, and she just spit right in his face. And he got to deal with it. In the ancient world, people were spitting people's face, man. In the book of Numbers, the Most High spit in Miriam's face. Let's get that in Numbers chapter 12, right? So you have to ask yourself, man, is it, should I do this? Should I lay down with my brother's wife? Because if you didn't, you get a bad name and nobody want to deal with you anymore. If you got somebody spitting your face in the ancient world and you had that stigma attached to you, nobody wants to deal with you anymore. So you might have had a business where you sold apples. Nobody is going to buy your apples anymore. You might have had a daughter. You want to give your daughter. Nobody's going to marry your daughter. They'll cut you off. Right? And so you don't want to be the guy who had his shoe loosed. That's why it says in verse 10, and his name shall be called in Israel, the house of him that hath his shoe loosed. How brother said we was going into it, they'll call this guy loose shoe. Right? You might have a wedding. You might say, look, don't invite loose shoe. Right? We know, don't even invite his wife. If you got caught talking to loose shoe in the ancient world, people kind of look at you. He's talking to him. What is he doing talking to loose shoe? Right? It might be a house that you might want to get some medicine from in the ancient world, and his house, the apothecary house, might be next to loose shoe house. And you might not really want to walk past loose shoe house or the house that have the shoe loose because people will get on you. And nobody wants to marry this guy's daughters. They don't want to do trade with him, any business with him. He's not invited to feast days, weddings. So this is a big deal, right? They changed his name. Now, in the book of Numbers, dealing with that spitting in your face, this Numbers chapter 12 and verse 10. And the cloud departed from off the tabernacle. And behold, Miriam became leprous, white as snow. And Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. Why did Miriam get leprosy? Because Miriam was speaking against Moses. The Lord said in the law, thou shalt not revile the gods, nor curse the ruler of thy people. Right? So Miriam was getting on Moses because she married this Ethiopian woman, and then the Most High checked Miriam. So who the hell do you think you're talking to? And gave her leprosy like that, right? And Aaron said unto Moses, alas, my Lord, I beseech thee, lay not this sin upon us, wherein we have done foolishly, and wherein we have sinned. Because what was their sin? Violating the law. Thou shalt not revile the gods, nor curse the ruler of thy people. And she was leprous, meaning she looked like a so-called white woman. Right? When you look up let's see if we can do this. See, Miriam was dark. Right? This is some freaked out picture. Right? This is, I don't know what this is right here. I'm not a fan of that one. That's not some, I don't, okay, hold on. Okay, check this out. So this is how Miriam looked. Miriam was all dark, and then she became leprous. All of her melanin and pigmentation was wiped away. So it's not good to look like this. This was actually a punishment by God. It's a punishment to look like that. Right? And I'm speaking about a so-called white woman. It's a punishment to have no melanin, right? And no pigmentation. And how did Aaron describe her in the law? It says, let her not be as one dead, of whom the flesh is half consumed when he cometh out of his mother's womb. So when you have leprosy, you look like one that's dead when they come out the womb. That's how Esau looked. When it said the first came out red, all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. They only called his name Esau because he came out looking half dead. So much so where Isaac said, Ishashwa in the Hebrew, right? Meaning he wasted. Wasted away is he. His pigment, his melanin, it's wasted. He looks dead. We had a dead baby. Call his name Esau. He looks like he's dead. Then it says, after that came his brother out, right? And his hands took hold of Esau's heel. You know? So Jacob came out healthy. Esau came out looking half dead. That's a punishment. That goes back to Cain. Where Cain said, my punishment is greater than I can bear. All right? When the Lord set that mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should kill him. Now, back in the law, Aaron said, let her not be as one dead when he saw her get leprosy, of whom the flesh is half consumed when he cometh out of his mother's womb. And Moses cried unto the Lord, saying, heal her now, O God, I beseech thee. Now check this out. And here's what the Lord said. And the Lord said unto Moses, if her father had but spit in her face, should she not be ashamed 7 days? Let her be shut out from the camp 7 days, and after that, let her be received in again. Hold on now. So the Lord said, when you have that leprosy, it's like your father spitting in your face. So what is that saying? It's saying two things. When Miriam got leprosy, it was equivalent to the Most High spitting in her face. Because fathers were spitting their daughter's face in the ancient world. Esau got leprosy. That's the Most High spitting in his face. How does the Most High love everybody? If leprosy is equivalent to a father spitting in his daughter's face, make it make sense. But the Lord loved Esau. He still got the residue all on his face, man. That's hatred right there. That's why it says, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. So the Most High said, he chalked up all that. Hey, he said, these guys, they're like unto spittle. Right? These heathen, they're nothing. And the Most High spit right in his face. Now, here's the point in the ancient world. A father might spit in his daughter's face. Now, you can say, oh, look, I'm calling CPS. Let me hear about that. I'm calling Child Protective Services. Well, you didn't belong in the ancient world. This was normal in the ancient world. I don't like that. He shouldn't do that. He should sit down and they should go to therapy together. Hey, look, you if you was back there and you was a daughter and you disrespected your father and your father was spitting your face, straight up and down, right? This is the ancient world. This is the ancient mind. You know? Now you can say, well, I would never do that. I could never spit in my daughter's face. Right? Well, you're not, you're not back then. Are we condoning that? Are we just saying just go do it? No, we're not saying that. We're telling you how things were done in the ancient world. The ancient life. The mind of the Israelite. Right? From Israel. Not from DC and Miami. Right? From the ancient land of Jerusalem. And your daughter might get pregnant. I'm going to tell you something that could warrant a father spitting in his daughter's face. Just like we told you, what could warrant a man getting beat. What could warrant a father spitting in his daughter's face today is a woman that gets pregnant in her father's house. Right? I saw this video. I wish I would have kind of saved it. But this father, I think he got up in the middle of the night. I don't know if he was working late. I think he was working a late shift, or I can't quite remember the situation. But he comes into the house. Right? He may have came downstairs or whatever, but he came into the house and he saw his daughter in a towel, a bath towel, like she got out the shower. And there were two kind of just random Negroes in the house, man. I think they was in the kitchen. They was eating up the food, and his daughter was walking around, and she had a towel on. She didn't have anything going underneath. So we could put two and two together. So the father came home, and the father, it was a big deal, to say the least. That's a situation that will warrant a father spitting in his daughter's face. You come home from work, and your daughter got two Negroes in the house, and she naked with a towel on. If you spit in her face, hey, it's warranted in the ancient world. Now CPS, Child Protective Services, they might come. You can't even hit your child nowadays, man. Right? You can't even put your hands on your child. And the Lord said, let's get this law real quick. Right? Let's go to Proverbs. I believe that's 23:13. Withhold not correction from a child, for if thou beatest him, it didn't say time out. Right? If thou beatest him with a rod, he shall not die. The Lord said he'd be straight. You all right? That's what that means. He'd be all right. Beat him with a rod. He cool. It's cool. He ain't going to die. He going to hurt. He ain't going to die. He's straight. It's all right. Thou shalt beat him. Oh, that's a commandment. Right? You can't do that now. I mean, look. Shoot. Right? If word get out that you beat your child to the wrong person, they coming to get your child. I'm going to just put it out there like that. Right? You're going to get it's going to be a 30-year-old white woman with a clipboard and a blazer and a button up underneath and suit pants. Right? With a clipboard, and she's going to introduce herself, and she's going to, have a sheet of paper, and she's going to come in your house, man. And the Lord said, thou shalt beat him with the rod and shall deliver his soul from hell. That's how if you don't want your child to go to hell, right? Hell means the grave, because a child might be so wicked, he'll do something where he dies before the time, right? If you don't discipline your child, he's going to live a life of sin and evil and eventually get judged for his sins and get stoned or get beat to death or whatever may befall him. So you have to beat your child to save him from killing himself and being killed, right? To save him from killing himself and being killed. That's how things worked. Where? In the ancient world. So yeah, you beat him with a rod. Your grandmother beat you with a whip, with a switch. They still kind of had that ancient mind. Now, Jake, you're doing timeouts. Put your nose on a wall. Right? Put your nose on a wall. Give me your PS5. Like we put that video up, that son who was breaking the window in his mother's house, man. She said, beat my ass, beat my ass. And he picked up that scooter. I'll beat you. It's madness in the world now, man. It's madness. right? It reads, my son, if thine heart be wise, my heart shall rejoice, even mine. So again, going back to that precept, a father might spit in his daughter's face, right? You know, another reason a father might spit in his daughter's face is if this a father might betroth his daughter to another man, but she keeps and she keeps messing up the situation, so she can never be married. And a father might be mad, man. You know, in certain societies, if you're not married by a particular age, they get on you. Right? Let me see if I can find it. If you're not married, it's gonna be hard to find that. I think it's 25. I don't know if that's in Japan, China. Leftover woman, that's what they call it. See that? Now nearly 30% of urban Chinese women of the same are single. Women who have not married by the expected age are called leftover women. Because they're not marrying. See, the Negro is different, right? He's going to marry a woman who was 60. I will have 4 husbands. In the ancient world, you was marrying these women in a prime, right? I'm gonna just use that in their prime. He wasn't marrying no woman past, in their 40s, man, or in their 30s. In the ancient world. Now, if you wasn't married, in the by a certain age, then you was kind of caught out there. You was kind of caught out there. That's in the Bible. Let's go to Ecclesiastes. So there's a lot of things and customs in the ancient world. You have fathers spitting in daughters' faces. You had what situation could warrant that? You had a woman spitting in a man's face, taking a shoe off. You had men that could get beat with rods. This is Sirach chapter 42 and verse 9. The father awaketh for the daughter when no man knoweth, and the care for her taketh away sleep. So it was a stressful situation when you had a daughter, man. When she is young, lest she pass away the flower of her age, and being married, lest she should be hated. So she would be hated by her father if she could never get a man. What the hell is wrong with you? Every man I try to betroth you to, you mess it up, huh? You're getting me a bad name. I'm the guy in the ancient world known for whose daughters can't find a man. What am I going to do with you? You're good for nothing. This how it was, man. Now you can say that's harsh, that's mean. Hey, look, that's how it was. That's how fathers thought, because what's stopping you from being married? What the hell is going on with you, man? Attitude problem. You can't be quiet. You can't cook, can't clean, can't take correction. So no guy want to deal with you. So your father, he would enable that wicked behavior. He'll get on you. It would actually stir up hatred in your father in the ancient world, because marriage was a big deal. Receiving a dowry for your daughter was a big deal. So she might have been on her 4th betrothal. He might slam the door and spit in her face and say, what the hell is going on, man? Right? And her virginity, lest she should be defiled and gotten with child in her father's house. And that's wicked. To have a child in your father's house. And having a husband, lest she should misbehave herself. So, a woman, she needs a husband so she doesn't misbehave. And when she is married, lest she should be barren. Here's the point. Keep a sure watch over a shameless daughter, lest she make thee a laughing stock to thine enemies. Yeah, man. Even that's today, man. If you got a daughter could make you a laughing stock. Your daughter talking to your best friend, right? Your daughter out in the central center of the marketplace in the ancient world, right? Committing lewdness, freaking off. And now you're a joke. Every time you walk in the ancient world, walk to the fish market, everybody laughs at you. And you don't know why. Every time you walk with your daughter to buy a garment, right, from sister so-and-so, people start looking at you, man. And even your daughter start laughing at you. So you'll be hot. And then they'll give you a nickname. It says, and a byword in the city. You can become a byword in the city. And a reproach among the people, and make thee ashamed before the multitude. So again, spitting in your daughter's face, it was warranted in certain situations. Right? Let's go back to Deuteronomy 25. Right? We're dealing with the laws, sundry laws in the ancient mind. Deuteronomy chapter 25 and verse 11. Here's another law. When men strive together with one with another, and the wife of the one draweth near to deliver her husband out of the hand of him that smiteth him, and putteth forth her hand and taketh him by the secrets. Well, what does this mean? Right? What does this mean? This means, let's read it again. If men strive together, so you and a brother might get into a fight, right? You might have been ready to take your lamb and offer it up. He kind of knocked you down. He want to offer up his lamb, right? Or, he might have, removed your landmark. And he said that he didn't do it, but you saw him do it. So now y'all kind of getting into it. You say my landmark was 15 cubits from my fish gate. And he says, no, your landmark was 20 cubits. So y'all kind of getting into it on, where the landmark was. If you know what the landmark is, you understand, right? So they might get into a fight. And then your wife might see y'all getting into it. And one man might be beating you up. So your wife might come in and try to stop this fight. So she kind of take the other guy and hit him below the belt. She might kick him below the belt. She might hit him below the belt. Right? It says, and the wife of the one draweth near to deliver her husband out of the hand of him that smiteth him. And what does she do? And putteth forth her hand and taketh him by the secrets. So if she take you by the secrets, it's not talking about some deep, dark mystery that you've done when you were 10 years old. Your secret are your genitals. So she might hit you below the belt or grab you, by your stones and by your rod, right? Now, what will happen to her? Then thou shalt cut off her hand. Thine eye shall not pity her. So you might have had women who had their hand chopped off. Now you can say that's too much. That's harsh. That's a bit extreme, isn't it? No, not in the ancient world. Now she could be, look, I didn't mean to do that. I was reaching for his stomach. He moved the wrong way. I didn't mean to hit him right there. Look, it was an accident, right? He's the one. Nobody wants to hear that in the ancient world. That whole fight stops. Now that woman, she might be fighting, get off of me, and they got to kind of hold her hand down, and she's trying to get her hand from being chopped off, but they got to take that sword and they got to make things happen. And it says thine eye shall not pity, because you might get emotional, right? You might, you might hear her crying, right? She might be screaming. She might have that snot running down her nose and, her throat. And she didn't mean to. She was only trying to save her husband. See, the Lord don't care about good intentions. The Lord cares about obedience. Obedience overrides your intentions, and good intentions and a good heart any day of the week. Match it up day to day, toe for toe, from day 1 to day 7. What outweighs what? A woman's intention to deliver her husband, right? Or obedience of the law. Look at the man that died in 2 Samuel. Because I'm going to give you some perspective, because you may say this is too much. This is obedience outweighing good intentions. The man in 2 Samuel, the 6th chapter, he wanted to touch the Ark of the Covenant. He had good intentions. Oh, he didn't. I'm going to rephrase it. He didn't want to touch it. He tried to stop it from falling, right? He tried to stop it from falling. Guess who can only touch the Ark of the Covenant? The sons of Aaron, the Kohathites. He had good intentions, but he wasn't being obedient to the law. The Lord don't care that he tried to stop it from falling. It don't matter. You broke the law. You can't keep the law by breaking the law. Your good intentions does not override obedience to the law. This is the ancient world. And emotions were taken out of the equation. That's why the Lord commanded you not to pity this woman, because she'll give you a sob story. She'll be crying, and you might get weak, but you can't get weak. You gotta cut her hand off, and it is what it is, right? Whatever hand she tried to grab this guy by the secret parts, Hey, look, you have to take that sword and chop it off. Whatever you did with the hand, maybe you buried it. I'm not sure what they did with the hand. It doesn't say. This is how things were done, man. Right? Let's get that in 2 Samuel. Right? That's like I had good intentions. You know, I tried to do this on a Sabbath. I bought and I cooked all this food for everybody, and I worked a few extra hours because I didn't want the Lord don't care about, you know, all of that, man. You got to keep the Sabbath holy. This 2 Samuel chapter 6 and verse 5. Remember, this is David bringing back the Ark of the Covenant back to Jerusalem, if I'm not mistaken, the city of David. Right? And David and all the house of Israel played before the Lord on all manner of instruments made of fir wood, even on harps and on psalteries and on timbrels and on cornets and on cymbals. Right? So they were turning up. And when they came to Nacon's threshing floor, Uzzah put forth his hand to the ark of God and took hold of it, for the oxen shook it. So it was shaking, right? And it don't even say if it was going to fall or not, but he probably grabbed it so it didn't fall. Right? Now you can say that was good, man. Uzzah, that was a good move, man. Whew, you saved it from falling. But what happened? And the anger of Yahweh was kindled against Uzzah, and the Most High smote him there for his error, and he died by the ark of the Most High. So the Lord don't care about what you tried to do, because he broke the law. The law says that only the sons of Aaron can touch the Ark of the Covenant. And David didn't do this in order either, because the Ark of the Covenant is not supposed to be carried by oxen on a cart. The Ark of the Covenant is supposed to be carried by the golden staves that the priests bear on their shoulders. So that means it can't shake. See, a man has enough discipline and moderation and control to hold that ark, those men holding that. The ox don't care. So they moving, they bumping into each other, so it can shake and fall. So David was not supposed to step outside of his lane and put the Ark of the Covenant on a cart so it could shake and potentially fall. So David did that, and that wasn't the best move. Then Uzzah also went off and tried to grab it because David didn't set it up right, but the Lord smote Uzzah because Uzzah touched the Ark of the Covenant, and he's not commanded to do so. Your good intentions do not mean anything if it leads to you breaking God's laws and commandments, right? Now, I actually want to prove that. Let's go to Numbers 4, right? Just to prove that the priests, the Kohathites, right, are the ones that deal with the Ark of the Covenant. I want to get straight to the point. Right? This is let's see. Bear with me. I'm going to get straight to the point. All right, we'll do. All right, this Numbers chapter 4 and verse 4. This shall be the service of the sons of Kohath and the tabernacles of the congregation about the most holy things. So they dealt with the most holy things. They dealt with the Ark of the Covenant. They dealt with the candlesticks. They dealt with the holiest things. They're the only ones that could touch it and move it. And when the camp set it forward, Aaron shall come unto his sons, and they shall take the covering veil and cover the ark of the testimony with it. So they have the complete responsibility of the ark of the testimony and the most holy things. And they would cover it. And they're the only ones that can see it. And that's spiritual, because not everybody has direct access to the most holy things. Not every priest can deal with the most holy things. You had different Levitical families. Not every Levitical family had access to the most holy things. Just like now we're a nation of priests. Not every priest has access to the secrets of the Bible. Not every Israelite is going to understand the dark mysteries of the Bible. Not everybody's going to be on the same level. That's what the law also teaches you, because the different Levitical families had different offices. Some families were closer to the most holy things. Some families were kind of in the medium, in the middle, and some families were kind of far off from the most holy things. They were all righteous, don't get me wrong, and they were all priests. They were all holy, but some had higher responsibilities than others. All right. So you had the Gershonites, and they had their own office. And then you had the Merarites. But which ones could deal with the Ark of the Covenant and the holy things? The Kohathites. So you had different Levitical families. Was Uzzah a Kohathite? No, Uzzah was not a Kohathite. He had no business touching the Ark of the Covenant. And the Ark of the Covenant had no business being on a cart. The Ark of the Covenant should have been borne on staves. So again, you may say this woman tried to save her husband. Guess what? The Lord does not care about that. The Most High say, cut her hand off. Thine eyes shall not pity her. Don't be sensitive. Don't get emotional. It is what it is. Right? So this is WFI Law School, the ancient mind and the Torah. Right? We're going to try to go into the Torah, the ancient mind of our fathers. Right? We may do this every Sabbath, every other Sabbath, Friday nights. So we'll see how the spirit may go, man. Right? Once a week, going to WFI Law School, the ancient mind and the Torah. So with that, we're going to close up, giving, of course, our honor and glory to Yahweh. Ba'ashima Mashiach Kwamalak Yahushai. Most High willing you were edified. Kwam Yasha. Shalom.